If you're doing all the right things, the routines, the healing, the self improvement, but you still feel kind of exhausted or unfulfilled, then this video is for you. But before we start, I'd really recommend watching this video with a journal or a notebook and a pen because your time is valuable. And if you're spending it here, I want you to leave taking away something and knowing yourself a bit deeper, not just feeling motivated for 5 minutes. So, hi, my name is Adi. Welcome to my channel. In my videos, I share what I'm learning in different seasons of my life, and I invite you to reflect on your life with me so you can feel more calmer, more grounded, and just more like yourself. I hope you enjoy my videos. Okay, let's start. If you're doing all the right things, but you just feel a bit tired or a bit off, it might not be that you're doing too much. It might be that you're performing your life rather than actually living it. I didn't realize this straight away. And honestly, I wouldn't have described myself as somebody who performs because I never really struggled with people pleasing for a long time. Once I learned about the power of boundaries and being selective of your people, your company, and what you say yes and no to, it did start to feel quite natural to me. So this wasn't really about trying to keep people happy, but over time, I noticed that something just didn't feel right. Even my growth started to feel like something that was being watched, not by everyone. Sometimes it was an imagined audience in my head. But we live in a time where everything is visible, like productivity, healing, confidence, and even spirituality. And there's this quiet pressure to not only do well, but to look like you're doing well. Without really noticing it, life can start to feel like something that's constantly being evaluated, measured, and observed. I've spoken about this before, but for me, this kind of showed up in very subtle ways. I had routines, habits, and all things that were genuinely good for me, but it just felt a bit tense around them. Like I was ticking boxes, especially in my healing journey. Like I had to keep proving that I was growing and improving, and it just felt very conflicting because the habits I was doing wasn't unhealthy, but also I wasn't living freely. So when I say performing your life, I don't mean being fake or pretending. I mean doing things that might actually be good for you, but mainly because of how it comes across. It's when your choices are more shaped on how something looks than how it feels. And it's really confusing because growth doesn't have an endpoint or a limit. Like you can always be doing more, learning more, healing more, not because you're behind, but because, like I said, there's no limit, there's no finish line. So if your worth is tied to doing enough and looking like you're doing enough, you never really feel settled. And that's where that tension and unease comes in. At the start of the year in January, I was reflecting and asking myself simple questions. Literally like nothing dramatic. I was just looking at all the hobbies I've been doing and asking myself, do I actually enjoy this? Or do I just like how it looks, like the aesthetic of it? And that shift alone, listening to my own knowing and how I feel about things, shifted so much for me. That brings us to our first journaling prompt. Where in my life do I care more about how something looks than how it feels? This can be hobbies that you're doing, people that you're hanging out with, things that you're posting on social media. And this is not a place for you to judge yourself or condemn yourself. It's just an opportunity to bring awareness to where you may be performing in your life. So I want to explain something that really helped me understand what exactly is going on. And if you're already into self-improvement, you really understand what I'm talking about. So at first, you start healthy habits for yourself. You might share them with people and people respond well. They think you're really cool and you feel quite encouraged. And slowly, without meaning to, the motivation changes. You're no longer doing a habit because it grounds you and makes you feel good. You're doing it because it maintains a version of you that other people see. So instead of just doing the habit because it feels good and it helps you feel grounded and that's the loop that you're doing the habit for, it becomes intertwined with what other people think of you. Kind of like hustle culture and looking productive and looking like you're healing, blah, blah, blah. And I'm so guilty of this, which is why I'm sharing it. So the habit stays, but the peace that came along with it at the start doesn't. Because although you still got the discipline to do all the things, you just haven't got the peace because the intention for why you were doing the habits in the first place has changed now. And there's a huge difference in doing hobbies because it's how it makes you feel and who you want to be versus trying to live up to who you're supposed to be and how people perceive you. Our next journal prompt is, what positive habits would I keep if nobody ever knew about them? The whole problem with performative living is when you start to live like this long enough, it starts to create anxiety. You start monitoring yourself, you start over explaining yourself, even justifying your rest because you're just so caught up in how you appear. And rest starts to feel like something that you need to earn instead of just something that every human needs. And then you burn out. Not because you're doing anything wrong or the wrong habits, but because of your intention and that your nervous system never really switches off. So, just an exercise is to actually keep track of your positive habits and actually see how you feel afterwards. Because if these positive habits don't make you feel good, then why are we doing them? Like, I'm not saying during it doesn't require discipline, but if you don't feel good and proud of yourself after them, then why are you doing it? It just becomes a tick off list. This is where a lot of self-improvement conversations become a bit muddled because wanting to become a better version of yourself isn't a bad thing. For the longest time, my wallpaper literally said, wake up as a higher version of yourself and do what they would do or something like that. And I still believe that. The difference is changing yourself because it aligns to who you want to be versus changing yourself to be seen in a certain way. Because when you change for yourself, you feel more proud, you feel more at peace, you feel more grounded, you just feel more yourself because you're validating yourself. So even if no one else notices, you do feel good, you feel validated. When it's performative, the focus is completely outwards. It becomes how other people see it, how other people perceive you, and how it's received. And that's when it becomes tense. So our next genre prompt is, am I changing because it aligns with who I want to be? Or is it because I want to be perceived differently? And I don't think the answer is disappearing from the world and just kind of like living without a community and without caring about anything anyone else did. I thought I could do that, and I deleted Instagram for like 2 years. And that served its purpose, but most of us don't want to delete social media. And honestly, we don't need to. Me just slowing myself down and asking myself, why am I doing this? Why am I posting this? Who am I doing this for? And who am I posting this for? I think social media is amazing because it can really inspire people, especially in the healing journey. But it's important to live your life, go through your experiences and emotions first before you share them with the world. And I really, really think it's possible. And it's just about awareness and not running on autopilot and consciously just choosing decisions and bringing awareness and intentionality to doing things. So I'm going to share some of the shifts that helped me. The first shift I did was to change the question I was asking myself. I stopped kind of thinking, am I doing enough? And I just asked myself simply, am I happy? Am I actually happy? It sounds so simple, but please try that one. Number two was I started doing things in private. Like I have hobbies and self-care practices that only my close friends and family will know about. I've chosen consciously to not share them just to prevent them getting mixed up with performing, and instead they're just for me and they're non-performative. And it's hobbies where there's no measure of success in them. So ask yourself, what do I want to keep that's just for me? The second shift to start performing is to measure success differently. So instead of caring so much about the output and the result, I ask myself how I feel in the process. Like now I care more about my peace of mind and honestly how it feels in my body and in my nervous system as opposed to how it looks to somebody else. This kind of brings me to the next point, which is living more from how I feel and from my heart space. Doing things that don't really have a tangible result, but just genuinely feel peaceful to my soul. It can be really simple, like just being more mindful when you do day-to-day tasks like washing the dishes or making a coffee. But if it slows me down and brings me peace and gratitude, then that's such a win for me. The last one, which I think is the most important, I've definitely saved the best to last, is grounding yourself more with God. So again, for me, grounding myself with God is something very private, so I won't talk too much into it, but it just reminds me of my God-given value and my God given worth, and that I don't need to perform for anything and anybody. And God sees everything I do and my intentions and my heart through it. So that's really helped me not perform because it's like, who am I kidding? God literally knows me inside and out, which is a little bit scary, I'm not gonna lie. But it just makes me think, like, why am I doing certain things? And like question myself more in a good way. I think maturing is knowing the goal isn't to have the most impressive life. It's to have the life where you genuinely enjoy living it. Like some of the best parts of you and your life will never be shared to the internet and seen or witnessed by everyone. But that doesn't make it any less meaningful. In fact, it makes it more precious. And living your life for yourself and your true inner well-being is just so much more liberating than performing. Your experience of life is so much more sacred, special, and beautiful. So, the final question: who are you when no one is watching?